Hello, and welcome to my second episode of Reading from the Grimoire. And I didn't really do it the way I was supposed to do it last time. I read pre-selected resonant text, which is not what I wanted to do for my Reading from the Grimoire episodes. I wanted to read you selected texts from my grimoires, from my journals that I already have written down from years past. And I wanted to literally tell you about how it affects each resonant text that I select, affects the viewer. The type of divination that I use is something that I've discovered myself, and it's called intuitive reading, where I read a selection of text from my grimoire and it applies to the viewer directly. So it's a little bit different from tarot in the way that it explains what you're going through in your life, and I'll also explain how to help you with whatever you're going through. So I wanted to begin with this first journal, and this one I just made, and it's cute, and I wanted to read a little bit from this journal. The resonantly selected text that I have picked out is: resonantly on your path is more than just enough. It's who we are. If you do too much, you will miss out on what you're supposed to do, as that is just yourself. Trust in what is resonantly just true and your path, or else you will just be confused or feel a lacking, as a satisfaction is only ourselves. So for me, this text basically is very self-explanatory and very clear, but I feel like a lot of you have had a lot of conflict and a lot of doubt created by the interaction with very doubt-filled individuals and people who don't have a really clear view on what it is to be life, and they don't have a very clear view of the truth inherently, so they kind of want to feel superior in some way. So you've been dealing with a lot of narcissists, I'm getting, and you've been dealing with a lot of people who want to make your life worse because theirs is, of course, not satisfying, and they feel pretty miserable about it. So they want to not be alone in that feeling, so that they've been trying to not only uphold a grid where they feel safe within its confines, because they literally have given up on a lot of truthful relationships that they could have with life, and they're getting you to doubt your own path. So, and what I'm getting here is if you're doing what they are telling you to do, or if you're doing too much in life, you'll miss out on the opportunity to just resonantly exist as yourself and exist in a truth frequency. Especially when you're relying on relationships that come outside of the intuitive way that you've been existing. Otherwise, if you felt like you needed to answer to anything, it's because you're existing from the wrong place, a wrong place within yourself, and you need to bring yourself back to the truth frequency, which is found in nature, which is found in your nervous system. If you feel safe in your nervous system, if you feel satisfied, you will also feel home, or you will feel like you're on the right path. You will feel like yourself, because you are yourself. You're existing from your soul, you're existing from play, and you're existing from the truth frequency, which is all of nature, which is not found in games or manipulation or in logic or in gossip or in anything that they're trying to get you away from your own original path, which, you know, they couldn't trust themselves, so that they're trying to get you to be distracted by their relationships. They want to feel better about themselves, so they want to throw you under the bus with them. They don't want to be the only ones under the bus. And of course, they're not going to feel satisfied when they're successful, of course. And basically what you have to know is you're not living in response to the world. You're not living in a scarcity relationship, which says you have to do A, B, C, and D in order to feel satisfied, in order to feel like yourself. And exist instead in the birthright truth frequency, which is the state of the entire universe, which is the state of your nervous system. And that only requires you to exist in play and actually enjoy your existentiality. And in that enjoyment, you also exist in your truth frequency. It very also may be a very productive thing that the truth frequency asks you to do in that play frequency or truth frequency, where it may be like helping an old lady across the street. It may be something that you want to do, not something that you feel forced to do. So if anyone is making you feel like you shouldn't exist in any other way than what they're saying you should exist as, you exist from the play frequency, the frequency of truth. So the second selection of text that I have selected is addiction, and it says addiction, replacement of yourself with something else in order to feel like one has to be replaced. There has to be a feeling of displacement in order to feel replaced. Don't be distracted by what is not resonantly us. It is not what is relevant. I feel like the people I'm connecting to, I feel like there's a lot of addictions going on with not just substances in your life, but everything that you're doing. And I'm getting a feeling that to separate yourself from your life, because that's really what addiction is all about, it's because you are feeling like you're being replaced by something. I'm getting that you shouldn't be attaching to other people's opinions the way you are, and the way I'm getting a clarity that you should be not making a structure, because you could only really replace yourself by your own relationships with other people's opinions, with other people's relationships with their lives. You could only, make or have a relationship with someone else. They can't really have one with you, because you have full control over that by your own sovereign relationships. If you let go of your view of them, if you let go of your judgment entirely, you will not be distracted by what you feel is not really who we are. You would be in what is relevant at that point, which is your own connection with the truth. And you would exist in how you're supposed to exist in this world, which is from a state of non-judgment. And that will help you release from these addictions, which, are only storylines within our psyche, within our consciousness, within our nervous system, that we basically have to turn to them instead of our own relationships, instead of our own natural, inherent, soul-oriented relationships, in order to feel like ourselves and in order to feel satisfied, when in fact we will not feel satisfied by these relationships at all. This next message is, divinity is not in your control. You did not choose what you are. You are only free when you are home. There is no substitute for home. Basically clarifying what we've already been talking about in terms of divinity is not within our control, and I guess that would be the key here. See, I'm learning every day too, by going into these texts, it's literally rewriting what I've already learned, and I've not shared nearly enough that process with y'all, and one day I will be more sharing of that process, but I am not perfect by any means, and I have torn myself to pieces in order to know what I know a lot of the time. So in order to get to my stable place, I've had to literally tear away all of the subconscious beliefs that I've had, tear away all of the judgments that I've had about everything, and this is basically saying that you have been in a very heavy state of self-judgment, and divinity is not in your control. Your own divinity, your own divine presence, your own play, your own connections with people, your own connections with yourself. Nature wants you to feel love towards yourself. Nature wants you to feel healing towards yourself. She doesn't want you to make judgments. In order to exist in truth, it requires us to get rid of those things. And you did not choose what you are. And that's another big, huge example of truth versus ego. Ego, obviously, trying to explain that we exist in some other way other than what our heart knows is the truth. And we did not choose our divine existence. We did not choose what we feel like when we are satisfied by our own presence, and we don't choose who we love, and we don't choose also who is in our homes, who is in our lives, and the only thing that we really can do is, when we live and exist from where we're actually supposed to live and exist from, which is only the presence of our soul, we will exist in a state of perpetual satisfaction, and there's no substitute for home, which is another way of saying this, where I am right now, it exists in a frequency of truth. There is no ego, there is no opinion, there is only this, and it exists from the truth frequency. So that is the place that we've been born into, that's the place that we actually are, and it's like asking you to take a step back from your own opinions, from your own judgments, and not actually formulate an opinion, and drop those opinions, because we don't exist the way we want to exist. We exist in the way that we are, and that is really where the satisfaction comes from. Not from the fulfillment of any kind of storyline, not in the fulfillment of any kind of politics or upstanding form that we would exist in a culture, or any kind of hierarchical opinion that we would have, from existing in a society the way we'd want to. So instead, exist from the state in which you were born into, which is the state of this is what it is. This is how you feel like yourself. You feel automatically satisfied by your own presence because that is your soul. And you are also a part of, the macro, which is the truth within all around you. And that's nature's basically asking you to take a step back from your own relationships and take a step into play and exist in a state of enjoyment of the world and enjoyment of your soul, the presence, that which you can feel is yourself again, and really step into the state of neurological innocence that we were all born into. Again, another message I just read from my journal, it's do not demonize and integrate. And that's a beautiful message. Again, it's calling home what I've been talking to you about this whole way from these resonantly selected messages that I feel apply to you directly. I feel like you've been demonizing a shit ton about yourself, about other people in your life, and about our society and our culture, and you've been tearing apart a lot of different meanings and purposes and all of these things that you're trying to open up, like Pandora's box, trying to make sense of it all, trying to get some kind of sense of truth. And it's really asking you to not do that, not to demonize anyone, not to demonize yourself, not to demonize any of the information, because it's not the information's fault it was treated that way, let's be honest. And instead integrate who and what you are. Integrate that which feels home, that which feels is who you are, is truthful to you. As it is all consciousness, and if we demonize any part of the consciousness, we also demonize a part of ourselves, and we cut a part of ourselves off. Just like, how we were always convinced that our world is very separate from us, and especially with the Sky Daddy and all of those concepts where God and the divine is very separate from us, and it's very self-loathing concepts which get us to reject who and what we truly are, and who and what we truly are a part of, which we are also the micro and the macro, that which is and that which isn't, that which is without and that which is within. So this is definitely telling you not to demonize any part of you, not to demonize anything that you've been feeling, not to demonize anyone around you, because you're only separating yourself from the truth frequency. And you're only separating yourself from that which, and it says integrate right here, and that basically means integrate what you know is truth and not demonize what you know is a part of you. This next message is interesting because it's sort of a nod to the shaman training that I received, and it says you've been used to getting rid of threatening substances such as poison ivy that is just an oil. You were prejudging yourself that it was something harmful when it is just an oil. So how I feel this kind of applies to you is, I feel like a lot of things in life that you've been, people, situations, politics, your job, even politics in terms of the micro, which is in terms of your life, um, and the way people see you, the way you see other people. You've been getting it to mean a lot more than it actually does. And essentially, like I was saying, poison ivy is just an oil. It's not really a poison. It is getting you to see something for what it isn't, and it's really not helpful when you do that. And so it's asking you to remove yourself from a state of prejudgment, which it's really put that way to clarify what I've already been telling you. Instead of existing from a state of judgment, or a state of a structure that you've provided to understand the world in a certain way, it's asking you to take a step back and see people or see situations as they are energies that you could either contribute to or not contribute to. And these energies can either wither away or they can either grow on their own terms, but they only have control when we give them control. And a lot of things can become a poison if we let them become a poison, when inherently they are not really a poison. Words, for example, and sound frequencies, if we don't make them out to be anything but what that is, if we don't give them the power by not existing within our own truth frequency or existing within our own relationships, if we actually step outside of our relationships in the way they want us to attach them, they will not have any kind of effect on us whatsoever. And I think you've been having situations in your life that are really not as poisonous as you've made them out to be. And I think that's really the message there. Let me know what you think about this style of reading, and let me know if that was helpful for you, and if you wanted me to go into any kind of more detail about any of these topics. This next selection of readings will come from my book here, and this is something I've written years ago. This is my first one, but all of these books I've written over the years, and they all have very, very intrinsic writings and intrinsic information in them, and I'm super stoked that I can start reading from them and start helping you with your own personal life. So the message in this book is saying, don't fill the silence just to avoid your own relationships. And I think that's a very important piece of information, because I think you've been going through a lot of trying to replace your time, trying to replace the people around you with, drowning it out with some kind of either new project or new concept, and I'm learning from this too, because this is a message from me as well, where I think I prioritize my creative projects in a way where it's not play anymore, it's something that I feel like I have to do, when it's really just a very prejudicial and very removing way to live. And it's a very grid-like way to live, because you're throwing away truthful connections and relationships that you would have if you were just existing in a state of play. And I feel like that's what a lot of you have been doing, where I feel like you've been avoiding your own relationships from your actual soul, or from your intuitive, playful self. And you've been filling the silence or the listening that you would be doing if you were just existing as yourself with all of these grid concepts and removals and replacing your natural awareness with something that is only a structure or only a way or a system of understanding which is completely not intuitive or coming from the source of truth at all. And that's why you've been feeling dissatisfied. That's why you've been feeling removed from your own life. That's why you've been feeling removed from those around you, because you've been existing in a state of judgment, a state of misunderstanding. Another exciting message that I've uncovered from my journal, my grimoire, is just another name for a grimoire, really. Don't wait for someone else to know what is resonant. Be open instead. So a lot of people who are watching my videos, I feel, are also watching other podcasts and other people on the news or on social media. I'm getting mostly the news and social media. I'm getting a lot of you are turning to these other people for the relationships you should be having with your life, and you're replacing your own awareness and your own truth frequency with these other people, when in fact the universe is asking you to have your own relationships, which are going to lead to your own truthful connections and relationships, which come from a state of play, which come from a state of satisfying relationships in your life, not any kind of replacement you could have with yourself, or you could have with anyone else around you. You're not trying to drown out your environment. You're not trying to drown out anything. You're trying to become a part of that. That's what's going to give you the true clarity and the true truth that you need about your own life and the truth itself inherently, so that you can get a clear picture, not a picture that you are just going along with whatever they're saying or whatever they're doing. And it's not monkey see, monkey do type situation anymore. It would, and I feel like that's a lot of the things that you've been facing right now. I feel like stepping out of that mentality and into your actual environment is going to be very helpful for you. Another resonantly selected text here. It's not you. It's not resonant if it's been logically perfected. So again, if you logically try to step in and try to make something understandable or make something perfect, or try to change the way it's received, or change the way something exists in its form, like if you're trying to change nature, for example, and try to make it into a city, it's not going to be nature anymore. It's going to be a city. It's going to be removed from the truth frequency, and it's going to be made into boxes, and it's going to be made into experiences that are not truth frequency based, but at the frequency of the intent from which it was made. So a lot of the cities, for example, are existing in a frequency which is not from nature's frequency. It's existing from the intent behind why it was created in the first place, which, let's be honest, is for money, for power, for control, not just for a narrative, but for all the other reasons why a city would exist. This last resonantly selected text that I'm going to be covering is cover the 2 ways to walk your own path. So it's just to really drive home this culling, or this cutting off of a part of ourselves when we exist in any kind of judgment. And I feel like you've been doing a lot of that. You've been trying to cut your life into pieces trying to figure it all out, and you've been trying to break off what you don't want to face, or break off what you don't want to have any power over you, when it's only in fact your own relationships that have any kind of power over you. And when you face those relationships, you're also integrating your own consciousness, and you're existing from yourself, from those places from which you thought maybe that you would lose yourself in. You would instead be reclaiming parts of yourself and reclaiming parts of your consciousness that have gone actually missing when you actually cull or cut off those pieces to yourself by making decisions or making up decisions about different political statements or political stances, or any kind of religious influences or statements, whether or not something is true, considering whether or not something is true at all, with our world of science, with the world that they're making up chemicals in laboratories, and whatever the information is. It's the age of misinformation, essentially, because it's asking us to literally get back to ourselves and get back to all of the pieces of our consciousness that we're culling off with making all these decisions, and embracing all of it, and embracing all of it as a part of ourselves. And instead of it being in the form of a judgment, it's going to be in the form of our own consciousness again, because in its creation, it's only created a separation within ourselves, whatever belief that it is. So I feel like you've been experiencing a lot of these emptiness type relationships or emotions, because you keep reducing yourself to a judgment, reducing yourself to a decision, which has been just culling you and just cutting you off away from your own consciousness and away from your own truth frequencies that you would exist in otherwise, if that judgment or that concept was never created. So it's just taking you to and asking you to get back to yourself, and instead of making judgments, facing these parts of yourself in an energetic type of way, where these are conscious parts of yourself. This is energy that you're facing, not a concept. And these are parts of yourselves that you would have if you've never made those judgments in the first place. So it's asking you to reclaim yourself, basically, and cover or prevent yourself from making the separations in the truth frequency that you've been making, by reclaiming these parts of yourself as if they were your own consciousness, because it's your own consciousness that you're literally ridding of when you're making these decisions and these judgments about anything, about people, about any situation, about anything outside of you, the macro, the micro, anything about your environment, anything about your government, anything about yourself, anything about nature, anything about the city. Any of these concepts, you're not making a judgment anymore. You're not existing in judgment anymore. You're existing from a state of integration, where you're bringing in your consciousness from all of these exterior concepts, and you're bringing these parts of yourself in. And this is the theme of the reading, really, is to bringing all of the parts of yourself back to yourself, because all of the relationships you'll ever have in your life only come from you. And the world that we have only can gain power if we allow it to, because we're the only ones with the relationships. I love you all, and thank you so much for supporting my channel, liking and subscribing. And I only, can get these messages out to more people if you support my channel. So I love and appreciate any support that you give me through either word of mouth or reposting my content. And I love you all so much. Thank you. All of my products and services are listed in the link tree that I have provided in the description of this video.
I wish that I could stay for you to learn to love yourself. I've waited for so long. I've been so patient, God knows. In this moment, and I smell the roses, and I do believe in you. I wish that I could take